Back into the shop, everyone. We have the usual assortment of pandemonium here. I've been trying to sort out, I've got boxes and boxes of vintage components that I've accumulated when repair shops would shut down in the 1990s and through the 2000s. They would have clearance sales and stuff, and I would go and pick up stuff. So I've already got one storage bin here that's all set up, and I'm working on the other one, still putting in. I've got a lot of resistors, the big value 1 and 2 watt resistors. So I'm going to take a few more minutes and clear the bench, and then we're going to get back to the Pioneer, the SX525 sitting over here. We've got it running, it's sounding good, and the next thing we need to do is address the cosmetics, get the lighting working. Things like the stereo light don't work, the different function lights aren't working properly on it. We have burned out lights in the front, so let's see how great we can make this unit look. Pioneers are renowned for their sound quality. Why shouldn't they look as great as they sound? So this, I think, will be the final installment of our Pioneer SX525 rebuild and restoration. Got the bench nice and cleared off now. We got our little LEDs here nicely organized now from the cabinets we're building over there. And as we talked about last time, the problem is we have burned out lights. We have the auxiliary here. We're missing the FM stereo. We're missing the phono light up. We do get the FM. We don't get the AM. Yeah, we do get the AM, but we're missing the stereo component here. When we come over to FM, I can see we're getting a good FM signal in there. It should result in stereo, but the light is burned out. So I'm not going to replace every one, but we have to be really careful now. And we also have some burnt out lights from the blue doll face here, and we want to go ahead, power off here. You don't want to do anything on a unit with power. I'm going to power off and pull back this shroud and see how difficult it's going to be to change out. We also have a burned out pointer here. We want to see if we can change that out too. It's about as much as I'm able to get the shroud out without disabling or removing the tuner dial string, and that's the last thing you want to do on a rebuilding project, is have to restring this tuning dial to make sure that moves freely. So basically I was able to move the little bulbs out. You can see the big ones, we're going to be changing them out for the LEDs here. We got 1, 2, 3, 5 of them to change out with the white LEDs. And then we're going to change these out, and of course these we're going to be changing to white LEDs. And because the voltage is much lower, we're going to turn it on and carefully measure the voltage here. We're going to have to calculate a resistor that's going to reduce the value, so we don't burn out our LEDs here. Simple application of Ohm's law: voltage equals E equals I times R, voltage equals amperage times resistance here. And I figured out by formula that I'm going to need about a 280 ohm resistor. It can be a tiny one, only 1/8 of a watt. Not much power is coming through here. So on this side, you can see on both sides I'm doing one at a time. I'm using a heat shrink tubing too that will encapsulate the connections here, so there's no chance of shorting out on the metal cover on the top. So I'm just waiting for the iron to heat up, and then we'll make our first connection here. There's the first one replaced with the heat shrink tubing, and I'll come back later with the hair dryer and make sure that's shrunk down real good. Okay, here comes number 2. That good and hot, and that solder just flows on that. We can position our heat shrink tubing over that and kind of get that set into position there. This stereo one, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. We're working on the last one now. This stereo one is a little too short here. So I'm going to go ahead. I have some plenty of hookup wire here. I'm going to cut some new pieces and work them on there so I give myself a little more leeway when it comes to putting the stereo indicator light on. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that to size and solder that on there. Okay, welcome back. We got all the little bulbs wired in, and you can see that they're functioning. We go all the way over to the side here to the auxiliary. Then we have phono, then we have FM, we have another FM mono, then we have nothing there, and then we have a AM here. So everything seems to be working good. The one thing that's not working is the stereo light is not coming on. So the other problem is I'm going to replace these old fuse lamps here, and I can't find where I put the LEDs. Gee, I wonder why. So it's going to take some time to dig them out, so stay tuned. Hallelujah and miracle of miracles, I found them in that mess over there, believe it or not. So have them all installed now, the new LEDs. We got the top lights. I've now got stuff well enough along here that I can put that shroud back, which will give me easier access to the stereo light to figure out what's going on in there. I want to make sure these are all level and flat. They're not on angles, so the light is equal as it comes through the front. So I'm going to go check that and adjust that now to make sure all these are pointing perfectly perpendicular off the back surface there. Rather than risk a short, I'm just going through now and shrinking some of the heat, some of the tubing. This heat shrink tubing works really well. This way I'll protect the LED from going from shorting out. So don't want to go through all this work and then have to redo it again. Works really well with just a hair dryer. So I'm going to go down and do all the rest of them. Let's give a little show. Let's dim the lights a little bit here and get our unit fired up. And got the auxiliary. Okay, I had a little bit of a wiring snafu on this stereo light. Looks like one of the wires was shorted out on there, and what is actually happening was when you were on AM, the stereo indicator light was coming on. So I think we've resolved that by finding out the proper hookup place for that. So now when we put it on FM, we shouldn't really have the issue. So I think that yeah, that should work pretty good. So I'm going to install that and do a little more wiring, and we should be able to put the cover on. So yep, been a long day, but I wasted so much time in this shop looking for stuff. That's but little by little, organization will rule. So let me get this thing installed, and we'll give it a listen test before we button her up and clean her up real good. You know what you guys did? You didn't remind me about the dial pointer, so now I'm going in here. I have to refashion a new light for that. I think we'll mount the resistor back there this time and just do an LED hookup on the front there. It'll make it a lot easier, and of course we'll get our buddy to shrink wrap out again. So well, let's get to it. Have a nice orange color there, and because the pointer stick is orange, might make good sense to put that in there. So gonna fire up. I got the little baby resistor there, get her set up, and get this thing put back together. So yeah, it's been a long afternoon, much more difficult than I thought it would be. A few rewiring snafus and a few wires that were really misplaced within the unit. It took a while to trace out the schematic and find out about that. So, all right, let's get this thing wired up. Okay, there's our new tuner dial pointer. Going along smoothly. We got our stereo light working. Everything else is rolling along pretty good on here. So I really thought I would finish today, guys, but it's getting late on Saturday afternoon. I need to get cleaned up. I did a sealing the tile in the bathroom and caulking that, so it's been a pretty long day. But we'll be back to wrap it up tomorrow. We got a lot accomplished. It doesn't seem like it. We got all of our new upper lights working now. Phono, AM, stereo light is coming on appropriate now and going off when the AM's on. We've got our FM's lighting up there, which is nice, and we also have our phono as well as our auxiliary. So all right, we'll see you tomorrow when we'll definitely have it wrapped up.